Watch this.
Trimming the funding for Idaho's higher education. The state's finance committee says they're doing what they have to fall in line with the governor's financial plans. But there is concern over the education to career pipeline. Lawmakers are pushing for a partnership between local law enforcement and ICE. After an attempt failed to make it out of committee today, another effort for officers to disclose immigration status is moving forward. A local high school student is smashing the competition.
Personally, I say I'm goated. I'm goated.
Without the use of what so many take for granted. Bathrooms and budgets, both issues taken up on the House and Senate floors today. Let's start with House Bill 752, which would make it a misdemeanor to use a bathroom, changing room, or locker room that does not align with an individual's gender assigned at birth. If it's a repeated offense within 5 years, it then becomes a felony, potentially punishing an individual to upwards of 5 years in state prison. The bill's sponsor says this is about targeting intentional use, not people making mistakes.
Mistakenly going into a room is covered and would be covered when the police come and do the interview. This is talking about knowingly and willfully, intentionally going in for the wrong reasons. Indecent exposure does happen all over, and this is to tighten up the indecent exposure laws where people intentionally take this opportunity to perpetrate something on women's spaces.
A lawmaker who debated the bill says there isn't a criminal act to create a crime, making the process confusing for police.
We're about to create a crime when there's no criminal act. All they want to know is that people are being asked to leave before we just call the police. Hello, police. There's a woman in my bathroom. Well, did you ask her to leave? No, but you should come and arrest her. That's going to be very complicated for them. And all they were asking for was a very reasonable fix to address that.
Now that passed 54-15 and it moves to the Senate. Now to the latest budgeting bill to hit the floor. This time cuts are coming for Idaho's State Board of Education. Those impacted by the reductions include Ag Research and Extension Service, state colleges and universities, community colleges, health education programs, career technical education. That list just goes on. JFAC is proposing a 6.8% reduction for fiscal year 2027. While a member of the Finance Committee says this is the best they could do under the circumstances, there is concern this will cause long-term structural damage to Idaho's economy.
We are already seeing how grave the fallout from this is going to be. I think 41 layoffs at Idaho State University. They're consolidating their Department of Education, their College of Education out of existence, merging it with something else, but they're eliminating the College of Innovation and Design from BSU. Engineering at University of Idaho is not going to be able to build out. There are going to be kids put on a wait list at a time when we desperately need engineers. Nursing at ISU is not going to be able to be built out at a time when we desperately need nurses. They're going to be put on a wait list.
The budget cuts continue to move forward, passing 46-24. Meanwhile, an effort to recruit and keep Idaho State troopers passed the Senate floor today. Project Choice was implemented several years ago to create the Idaho Law Enforcement Fund. Drivers pay $3 on their vehicle registration to go towards that fund. Senate Bill 1379 would up that cost, $5, to a total of $8. The bill's sponsor wants to deepen that fund to recruit more troopers and keep up competitive pay.
What are the things that we do through state government that we could do ourselves? Those come off the list. What are the things that we can't take upon ourselves? They hit the list. And then I think, what do the roads matter if they're not safe? What do the schools matter if they're not safe? And that's what we're talking about here.
This bill passed the Senate 28-7 and moves to the House.
We don't know who is in our state.
A bill that would require local law enforcement to disclose the immigration status of a person arrested is now heading to the floor. Today, House Bill 660 passed the local government committee 8-7. Meanwhile, a different bill that would require a partnership between local officers and ICE failed to make it out of a Senate committee today. after passing through the House last week. House Bill 659 was met with opposition from several county and city law enforcement agencies, saying it overreached local control. It wasn't just members of law enforcement opposing that legislation. Community advocates worried it could have led to racial profiling. Here's Christian Lopez.
We're very thankful to those senators that voted against this bill. We see that it would be incredibly harmful to our communities, especially the Latino and immigrant community, where we see that racial profiling is real in our community, and bills like this would only further that.
There was an overwhelming opposition to this HB 659, especially we saw from law enforcement.
I stand in direct opposition to this bill. Number one, because we already cooperate with the federal government when they ask us to. But from a more local level, as of this morning, 34% of Homedale's population is Hispanic. Over the last 3 to 4 years, we've seen the trust and the cooperation between law enforcement and the Hispanic community erode.
And we heard from people that were for the bill too, that were saying, well, local law enforcement, ICE, they already cooperate with each other. Why not make it more official?
It's routine duties that they're already doing. If in the course of that, this guy doesn't speak English, no insurance, no license, whatever, they can then put on their ICE hat and go, let me dig a little further here. So they're already doing it. If they're already on the routine, stop, this just lets them go a little further, and it also lets them participate in ICE-led joint operations.
Many local law enforcement agencies, I've been in communication with a couple in my area, in the Kenyon County area, and they say, they already do work with law enforcement. They don't need the state legislator to tell them that they need to work with them and what capacity. We're just happy that the legislator made the right decision this time when it comes to immigration issues.
It is National Sunshine Week. While it would be appropriate if that was meant for celebrating the weather this week, it's incredible, but it's actually celebrating the openness in government. It all stems from the famous quote from U.S. Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis when he said sunlight is said to be the best of disinfectants. Now, Governor Brad Little just declared this Idaho Sunshine Week too. So Justin Core caught up with the Idaho State Controller to talk about how you can shine some sun on your state and local governments.
When talking about government, really every week should be all about transparency, but especially this week, Sunshine Week.
We have over the last couple of weeks and through the legislative session have talked a lot with different groups throughout the whole state of Idaho to help promote and encourage more openness in government.
And beyond just pushing for more transparency, Idaho State Controller Brandon Wolf is also trying to raise awareness of the information already out there. Specifically, he's pointing people to the Secretary of State's campaign finance site, sunshine.voteidaho.gov, and the now 13-year-old transparent.idaho.gov, where you can find financial and operational information for governments all across the state.
We're the pioneers. We're leading the nation in transparency, and we're proud of that.
But there's now also a new site you can use.
And one of the other tools that we have is townhall.idaho.gov, which is a one-stop shop for all boards, agencies, and commissions for the state government to go on and look to see where is a meeting taking place. It has the agenda, the notice. You can be in Bonners Ferry or in Bear Lake, and you can sign on and see where a meeting's taking place. And the best part is you can actually subscribe as well. And so you could get a text message or an email saying, hey, transportation is meeting tomorrow.
The point of all this is to simply build more trust in what your elected officials are doing and how they're spending your tax dollars.
Everyone else is saying that trust in government is at an all-time low. And especially you look at it in the target for ourselves on the financial side, how can we build that? And so if we can open up the books and change that culture, I think that's the biggest piece, is helping let the citizens know that culture's changed and that public information should be public. And government impacts our lives every single day, throughout the day. And so the citizens have a right to know how is that impacting them. So how were the decisions made and why were the decisions made? And especially when it ties to the financial standpoint, they have every right to know and see that. And so it's just to help bring that forward, to let the citizens be engaged and be part of that process.
Now, a lot of this information has been out there for a while. Again, the Transparent Idaho website has been online for over a decade, but still not enough people are using it. So Wolf says it's not just about putting more data out there and letting more people know about it. It's also about making the sites more user-friendly.
There's so much data. We have millions and millions and millions of rows of data that we have and that's available. But how do you make that consumable? How do you help that so that the average citizen here in Idaho, your viewer, can go on and look to see Medicaid information at Health and Welfare, or look at transportation or Fish and Game, you name the agency. How do we make that easier? So if there's opportunities so we can make that the user can dive in and look up information, that's one of the big pieces.
Okay, now's your chance to grab the notebook. If you missed any of those websites, here they are again. The big one of them all, transparent.idaho.gov. That's where you can find all sorts of information like people's salaries. Now, there's also sunshine.voteidaho.gov, which is where you'll find campaign finance information. And the new one, townhall.idaho.gov, where you can find town hall information from across the state. Okay, video games, they're really complex. You know, there's a lot of fast movement, and you have to keep track of all the constant action happening all at once. So imagine trying to compete on a team without relying on what most players depend on the most. Well, there is a Boise High senior who has found his own way to master the game, and in the process, he's becoming a pretty important part of his school esports team. Inside the esports room at Boise High, senior Gareth Brown plays his favorite game, Super Smash Bros. The headphones are on and he's listening closely because for Gareth, that's how the whole game works.
I can't see shapes, shadows, anything like that. It's just brightness and darkness.
Gareth was born blind, but in 6th grade, he discovered something most players overlook. The game is full of clues.
Different moves make different sounds, and so I'm exploring my joysticks and my buttons and really getting to know some commands.
It all started at the Boys and Girls Club when he played on an old Nintendo 64.
But I liked the sounds, so I was like, I want to kind of keep playing this.
Over time, Gareth learned to recognize voices, footsteps, even how characters move across the stage.
Like some characters have flip-flops, so you can hear a lighter like. Then there are some characters, some giant characters like Bowser's, whose feet like shake the ground as they run, so it's more of a. And then some characters kind of glide across the stage, And so that's kind of more of a. So there's so many different sounds, and they put so much detail into those sounds.
And a lot of the time, he beats players who can see everything.
Good run, Garrett.
It makes me laugh, honestly, because I'm just like, wah, like you just got beaten by a blind person.
I loved your sound effects.
His coach, Paul Parado, says the first time Gareth played the team, everyone noticed.
And there was 5 or 6 other players down here playing, and he came down, and like he said, they eventually didn't think he was visually impaired because he ran the gauntlet right through all of my players.
Now Gareth is just another part of the Boise High esports team. And according to his coach, he brings something else to the room too.
Gareth is the first one to say, like, it's okay, guys, we'll get the next one, or just always positive. Even when we lose, he walks out here with a smile because he got to come in and play for 45 minutes, something that he loves to do. So it gives me chills every time he's down here.
For Gareth, winning isn't really the point anyway.
I honestly had never thought that I would end up on like an actual high school team, so this is really great. And of course, like, there are some times when I lose, but I don't get too frustrated at that because it's just fun.
And when everything goes right, there's one sound Gareth always hopes to hear.
I heard the victory theme for my character because, you know, in Smash Bros, each character has its own victory tune when they win, and I heard mine and I was like, dude, let's go.
Proof that sometimes you don't have to see the game.
Yep, I won that one.
To belong in it.
Personally, I say I'm goated. I'm goated.
He is goated. Okay, we asked Gareth if he'd like to continue playing esports in college. He's a senior, so he's going to graduate. And he says Boise State would be an incredible opportunity if he gets the chance. His coach, though, says he's already working on it, hoping to connect Gareth with the BSU esports team before graduation. All right, now to the 4-in-1. No signs of relief for drivers at the gas pump. Gas Buddy says the average cost for a gallon of gas of regular is up $0.50 since last week. That's about $3.70 in Boise. Meanwhile, the state average is $3.68. Boise is gearing up for Treefort Music Fest, and if you don't have tickets yet, you might need to act fast. Organizers say day passes for Wednesday and Saturday already sold out, as are college price tickets. Now, Friday and Sunday passes are running low, as are passes for the full 5 days. You can also still get main stage passes, fort badges, and some single event tickets. Treefort kicks off next Wednesday. And my personal favorite here, an Idaho mascot is taking home the dub for best mascot among men's March Madness teams. In a bracket from USA Today's For the Win, Joe Vandal came out on top. The writer put congratulations to a team with a perfect combo of mascot and team name. Joe is ahead of 67 other mascots, so go Vandals. And that's the 4-in-1 on the 208.
I know today is the kickoff to spring break for a lot of Southern Idaho students, but by the time this week is done, you might start thinking it's the kickoff to summer break, as we have record challenging warmth that really takes hold tomorrow into Wednesday and sticks around through Friday and potentially into the weekend. So we will likely see multiple daily high temperature records fall in places like Boise, Emmett, Twin Falls, potentially even up in the mountains. Places like McCall could see record warmth this week. That is because we have a big old ridge of high pressure that's going to amplify in across the west. And so it's not just Southern Idaho that will see unprecedented late winter heat. The entire western U.S., in fact, likely looking at record high temps. So by Thursday, I'm just fast forwarding us a little bit to show you the extent of this heat. Denver, Colorado in the mid 80s. Some spots around Denver could be flirting with 90 degrees by the end of this week. Boise, Salt Lake City up around 80. Redding, California in the 90s. Phoenix for the final day of winter will be at 106 degrees. Notable here, you'll hear me say this a lot this week, is that Miami, Florida will be at 76 on Thursday. Boise at 80. Not often that we are warmer than southern Florida, but that will happen this week. Looking around the region right now, we are slowly starting to see the clouds break apart. Still mostly overcast over Payette Lake and McCall, where it's only 44 degrees. Sitting at 60, though, in Twin Falls, upper 50s in Boise, not far from 60 in Sun Valley either. So already you can tell things so much warmer than our cool Sunday. We added 10 to 15 degrees of warmth today. Tomorrow we'll tack on another 10 to 12 degrees of warmth. Our St. Patty's Day looking picture perfect. Low 70s, sunshine overhead, mixed with a few clouds here and there, and light to breezy winds depending on your location. I think we may see some gusts, maybe 15 to 20 miles per hour. This is nothing to even mess up the hairstyle. If you're sitting out on the patio to enjoy your corned beef and cabbage tomorrow, should be a really lovely day for that. After that, the heat is on. Mother Nature really cranks the thermostat as this ridge of high pressure amplifies eastward and will really take hold to areas to our south. We're on the northern fringe of that high pressure. And over Seattle and Portland, it stays cool and rainy as that storm track will be directed up and around that ridge. So they're looking at a wet week while we stay high and dry and abnormally warm to wrap up the winter season. So tomorrow morning, we'll wake up to likely mid to upper 30s, even low 40s, depending on location across the Snake River Plain. Pretty chilly in the mountains. We'll see mid to upper 20s for McCall and Stanley early on. But look at our high temps tomorrow. We'll hit the 50s for McCall and Stanley, mid 60s for Haley and Fairfield, into the 70s for the Magic Valley. We are low to mid 70s across the Treasure Valley, except out towards Ontario. May struggle to get out of the 60s there, as cloud cover may hang on a little bit longer. After that, the heat is on. I expect record highs Wednesday and Friday. We may hit 80 on Thursday. That would tie a record high for that date. All right, it is 5:23. Let's take a quick look at traffic conditions. We do have a traffic alert for you. Southbound Eagle Road remains closed at Highway 44, and here's why. Let's give you a live look at that area right now. We had a dump truck reportedly that hit a traffic signal there, took the entire pole down. They're working to replace it. So southbound Eagle Road at Highway 44 is completely closed. You'll be detoured around that. Otherwise, we are looking at pretty normal, quiet conditions out there for the rest of the area on your Monday. No big issues to report outside of that shutdown.
Comment time. All right, we have Brian from Homedale. Gas prices are $3.75 in Homedale, likely going to be $4 before the week's over. All I say is try to get gas before Monday, because that's usually when it changes. But if it doesn't, I'm sorry. It's been crazy lately. Okay, next comment. We have Mike, who says, wow, Gareth has to be the only blind esports competitor in the USA, right? I don't know the answer, but it's pretty impressive. Then we have Deborah, who said, loved the Gareth story. Knew a talented blind girl in high school playing the piano, perfect pitch, played for Bora High School choir many years ago. So grateful for teachers and coaches who recognize talent. I agree with you, Deborah. And finally, Katie, who is at Boise High, says, thanks for the story about Gareth. If you want to play against him, you can. They're taking options there.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.